So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the RGM Experience podcast, a podcast where we delve into the grassroots music industry and beyond. And today is no different, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Ryan Stametsky. Did I pronounce that right, mate?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, nice one from
Very
Valley
good.
of Salt. Yeah, cheers, mate. So, and from all the way across the pond in America, New Jersey, I believe, mate.
That's correct. Yep.
Right. Okay. I've been to New York a few times, and I've heard of New Jersey, and I know it's connected, and it's just across the water a little bit. But tell me all about New Jersey because I'm always fascinated with America and what goes on.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, New Jersey is right next to New York.
Yeah.
There's North Jersey and there's South Jersey. North Jersey is more of like a New York area, and South Jersey is more of like a Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area.
Mm.
So both regions are unique. New Jersey itself has a pretty unique musical history. I mean, we have and we have Bruce Springsteen, we have Bon Jovi, Frank Sinatra came from Hoboken, I believe. There's a lot of there's a lot of music in New Jersey, to say the least.
Yeah, I do like There's a lot of comedy as well, I believe, from New Jersey as well. Um, I'm right into American comics, and I've push comes to shove, I forgot his name now. Big guy. It was Joey Diaz from there. Do you know much comedy in over there as
I
well?
don't, I'm not
Oh,
really
you
into
don't?
comedy, but
No.
yeah. But
Uh,
there's lots of comedy clubs in New
yeah,
Jersey.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah. I love all that kind of thing. I love the scene, and so the music side of it in New Jersey. Then, so how did your story start getting into music? Talk us through the landscape of. I presume you grew up in New Jersey. You can
Yeah,
tell
I
me.
grew up in New Jersey, more in the southern region of New Jersey.
Yeah.
I grew up in a town called Riverside, New Jersey, which is a really small town in New Jersey. Um, and I started playing guitar when I was in third grade. I was lucky that I took lessons from someone who actually knew how to play jazz, rock, classical, and I learned how to read music.
Yeah.
And I took lessons for a long time from him, and I developed from there. I played in local bands. I played in, the high school band.
Mm.
So that's where I kind of started. And then I went to college for music. Um, Particularly for jazz because you can't really go for rock. And I do like jazz. And I got a degree there and I performed a lot. I was full time doing that. And then I have a family and I also have an interest of being a therapist. So I became a therapist, a mental health therapist, and I have my own agency um, in New Jersey, which does quite well.
Mm.
And I started getting back into music during COVID. I got in touch with a person named Marty Wilson Piper. He's from the church and All About Eve, 80s bands. And he did a sessions through Skype called Songwriting Guidance, where he would help people write songs or help improve their guitar playing. And that's how I kind of started writing music. I didn't really write music before, believe it or not. So I just started writing with them, and it actually came pretty naturally. And through those sessions, he found that I had a knack for writing more complex, progressive type music.
Well, jazz has always been one of those things where I've always had a little bit of a mental block personally with jazz. I can appreciate it for what it is, but it's just never connected with me like other genres of music for one reason or another. I don't know why. It's just music affects people in different ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then jazz is a hard one to digest sometimes because sometimes you can't really hear the melody too well. But I do love jazz. I love different jazz, but I also love rock,
Yeah.
I
I think
kind
that's what it
of
is. I think it's the melody thing. I like melodies. I think that's what I think you've hit the nail on it. I think that's what it is.
yeah, yeah. I mean there's tons of melodies in jazz. It's just a
Yeah.
different, people just don't enjoy it, but it's okay.
Each their own. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. It's a massive world, isn't it? If everybody were the same, it'd be a boring place.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So you mentioned you played in a high school band. What's that mean? What's that look like? Remember we're over here in
Uh,
England.
yes.
What's a high school band? How's that look?
Well, there was a band in the high school, so there was a jazz band in the school that
Oh,
I
okay.
went. Then I also played in different bands while I was in school. Different bands, we played original music.
Mm.
cover songs and stuff like
What was
that.
the name of the band?
I don't remember. I think one of the names was
Is that bad?
Altered. Yeah, Altered Images, which
Oh yeah,
actually,
okay, yeah, class.
yeah, yeah. I don't. It's not. It wasn't the best name.
I love the old historic band names that people have. They're always shocking, aren't they? But you end up where you are, I suppose.
Right, right, right. Like I said, it wasn't the best name now
Yeah.
looking at it, but it was what it was.
So, did you have a break from music a little bit then? Did you take a bit of time out from it after?
Well, yeah, after I started having kids and I'm married, and then
Yeah,
I took a break from music. I got my degree in counseling, and like I said, I came back to it when COVID hit. I was always still playing, practicing
yeah,
and playing guitar, but just wasn't playing out.
yeah, yeah. So, I suppose life gets in the way sometimes, doesn't it, of these passions that we have throughout our lifetimes.
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard to play. I was playing when I was playing professionally. I was playing, maybe 4 nights a week, and it's not an easy thing to do when you have a family because all
A
those
lot of
kids.
traveling as well, or was it local? Or
There was some traveling. Some of it was local. A lot of it was gigs, jazz gigs, rock gigs, whatever gigs I could get.
hmm. Were
Yeah,
you a bit of like a session musician type thing then, or or did you
yeah.
have?
I mean, I did play on people's sessions. I played on rock sessions. I played on jazz sessions. Nothing really that I mean, local people would hear, but nothing that really went,
Yeah,
above and beyond
yeah.
the area.
So, what took you to in the what is massive now, the mental health world? What took you in that direction?
Well, I was always interested in helping people.
Right.
So like I said, I went to school for counseling to learn those techniques. And, when I started doing, I still enjoy doing it. And, when I started meeting with people, there's a real big need, for that, as you probably know.
Mm.
And, I just couldn't handle all the people that wanted to come in. So I started adding people and it grew to like, a really big agency because the
Yeah.
demand is so much there, at least in America, but I would imagine all over the world, it's a big demand for mental health.
Yeah, well, if we just keep it like within the music industry, mental health is a big thing for musicians and
Yeah, yeah,
creative people as well. Particularly, it feels like.
yeah. That's for sure. And a lot of creative people have issues with anxiety and depression, trauma. I mean, maybe that fuels some of their creativity,
Mm.
um, but they still should seek help
Mm.
for that.
What's the best help for somebody that's creative that's really struggling? What kind of techniques help us people in the creative industries? Do you think?
I think CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy,
Yeah,
it is a proven technique that you can use. It's pretty easy to use. It's taught pretty much in every school.
yeah,
Um, it does work. You have to put the work into it. I mean, everyone is different,
yeah,
and not every technique works with everyone. Just the fact of purely talking to somebody and expressing how you feel, to someone that's not, your family, someone that's going to, just be there for you and listen to what you're going through is just helpful in itself.
Is it a lot worse after COVID? So just speaking for myself, I not necessarily really suffered with mental health issues personally, but I've seen it a lot around with me, and I have felt more anxiety going out when I'm used to being safe in my little house. Sometimes, I work from home a lot, so I am home a lot, and you do get a
Right.
little bit like, oh, I'm going out into the big old world. This is a little bit different. You do get, I do feel like it's a bit different when I go out into the big old world sometimes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, COVID definitely, exaggerated the mental health crisis a lot, and it's kind of stayed where it's at, because people were afraid to go out and, whether justified or not. A lot of it is a lot of fear, and people still have a lot of fear and that's all around us, and they were scared to go out and you know, um, the interesting thing now, there was a lot of telehealth appointments then, which are, video, but now people really want to come in. I mean,
Yeah,
they don't want to do over the computer. They want to come in and meet with somebody. So, the whole thing of being afraid of COVID is gone.
yeah.
It's just exaggerated whatever, the mental health issues were there.
Mm. I don't necessarily mean scared of COVID. I just mean like just being around big crowds and going out to a
Oh
gig
yeah,
where it's quite like it's quite intense sometimes, gig environments,
yeah,
and just going out into the music world again and just being around people.
right.
I still feel like it, to today a little bit. Sometimes I just think, "Oh, shall I not bother going out?" But then I have a word with myself and say, "Yeah, I'm going out. I'm doing it." And then
Right.
everything's always fine. You just get that little thing inside you sometimes that has a word that you need to ignore, I suppose.
Yeah, you know what? That's the best strategy right there is,
Yeah.
anxiety comes, to ignore it most of the time, 99.9% of the time, it's in your head. And if you just move forward and say, you know what, I'm just gonna go do it,
Yeah.
everything is usually fine,
Yeah.
So that's a really good healthy strategy to have. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
to kind of just move forward and do it, and then you see that it's okay.
Yeah, just being out your comfort zone. Because again, being a creative in the music industry, trying new things, speaking to new people all the time. It's just like,
Right.
what's this person going to be like? I don't know. Or if they don't like me, that'll be a nightmare on this interview. And all these questions are going in your head when you put yourself out your comfort zone. But it's the only way you grow in it. And I suppose as a musician, trying new things. You've just released your new album that we've been covering on RGM.
Right.
Doing all these new things and getting yourself out in the world. It's good, isn't it? It's good.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Yeah. It's something you got to get used to, but once you do it, it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So what's the so I've got to ask you just because I'm fascinated with the world and what America's doing at the minute. How do you feel the tide has turned since you've got a new president at the minute?
I think that's a good question. I think it really hasn't changed. I think people are the same.
Yeah.
I think the issues are the same. I think a lot of issues are kind of imagined in people's heads,
Mm.
and I think it's always kind of been the same. I think society has gotten worse as a whole. Doesn't matter who is president, and the problems here have gotten more difficult because they have, I think because we haven't taken care of them and they just kind of been swept under the rug and now it's we're at where we're at. Um, but I don't really think, things have changed. I'm a real hopeful person.
Yeah.
And I think things are changing actually for the better, and I think,
Mm.
when people look toward the positive of things, you have a much better experience, whether who's president or
Yeah.
not. Because we don't have control over those types of things. It's just those things happen, um, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
So you could either take it for what it is and live in a world of, if you don't like this person or that person, you could live in total hate and disgust for, however long that is, or you can be positive.
Yeah.
So that's what I always tell people, especially doing counseling because, there are polarizing views in our country, but they don't really need to be.
Yeah, we just need watch less news. It's too stressful to watch all the people shouting at each other, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think people that really get stressed over it are usually people that have a lot of anxiety to begin with,
Yeah.
and they take that as their thing to be angry about, because you don't really have control over. You have control over yourself, like you said. You can go out. If you have anxiety about going out or doing something like that, you have the power of you could say to yourself, "Hey, I'm just going to go do it." And then you do it and it's fine,
Yeah.
because it's all around you. You have the ability to change that, you know. And those are the things that you should focus on that you could really change.
So what got you, you went and you created this business, everything's building and growing. What made you finally get the axe back out again and start creating music again? I know you mentioned earlier that you'd still be playing and you might uh,
Right,
get the
right.
instrument out now and again. But what made you think, right, I'm gonna have a go at doing an album here? Talk us through that.
Yeah,
How do you get
so I wanted to get back to playing,
yeah,
and I really felt the need that, to get out there and do it, and I felt a calling to to play music again. And again, meeting with Marty, we discussed it, and
yeah,
and then I kind of he saw that I have a knack toward writing progressive music, and he asked me my interests, and I talked about my faith, and he mentioned John the Baptist, and he goes, that would be, pretty wild if someone wrote an album about John the Baptist. I said, yeah, it would be. He goes, well, you
Oh,
should write one. I said, okay, I'll start writing one.
okay.
And that's how it happened,
Mm.
and it kind of happened that way. And I let it be an organic process where I didn't worry about, I didn't have any deadline. So I worked 2 hours a day writing it. And then I just kind of added the layers and I tried to capture that story.
Well, I did want to ask you about the title of the album. It sounds really dramatic. So,
Right, right. Well, it
voice of
is
one,
dramatic.
talk us, yeah, talk us through it and tell
Yeah,
us
so
what it is
so
behind it and everything.
yeah, so Voice of One Crying in the Wilderness, it's a title. It's actually right from the Bible because he
Okay.
was the person talking, and he was John the Baptist. From what we know, was a
Yes.
pretty wild and crazy looking guy, almost like
Uh,
a rock star from the 70s. Where people were, he ate locusts. They didn't really bathe in those times. He had wild hair, and people didn't know what he was doing, but he was, preparing the way for something bigger. And that was his story, and it's not really told. But in going through that, from his birth to his death, it's a pretty interesting story how he evolved. He was pretty hated.
yeah.
Um, and again, when people saw him that we know of, it's just he was really a wild looking guy. Think, somebody with really long hair and just,
Yeah.
probably all over the place. And he lived in the wilderness, you know. So that's that, and that voice of one crying in the wilderness, that's what he was. He was that voice of one person crying in the wilderness, and at the end they captured him,
Yeah,
because
well,
he
I was going to ask, forgive my ignorance. I'm not particularly religious myself, but
right, right.
what part in the Bible did he play himself? Did he play?
Well, he was the one who introduced people to Jesus. He was actually
Okay.
his cousin. So, that was his role. He introduced people to Jesus. And, again, he was hated. And, he was kind of a figure that really
Why was he
pushed,
hated?
well, because, people didn't like Jesus. And also,
Oh,
too, thought he was just crazy. And
uh,
also too, from what we know, he wasn't one to keep his mouth. He wasn't one to keep quiet, and he actually, he scolded Harold, who imprisoned him, and then Harold's wife, because Harold actually liked talking to him. That, again, this is what we kind of know. Harold liked talking to him, and I guess his wife was jealous and had him beheaded.
oh,
So, oh yeah. So he was imprisoned from Harold, and then he was beheaded. So, not the best of endings
yeah.
for a guy like that. But yeah, so he was
It,
a
it,
really
he sounded
crazy.
like my type of guy, to be honest with you. It
Yeah,
sounded
I mean, if you, yeah, and exactly.
like,
It's he was really I guess he was kind of like maybe one of the first kind of rock stars. Like, he really pushed the envelope, and you know um that was him. So, I think that story can appeal to everyone and
yeah.
anyone, by being religious, because like you said, that seems like your type of guy. Well, it is, and that's why I think, the guitars being loud and
Yeah.
rock and roll, that kind of really personifies who John the Baptist is, because he was loud and he's kind of looked rock and roll.
Yeah. Well, but I just found it fascinating. I had a listen. I didn't write the review myself, but but there's a link within the description to our album review and the album as well for people that are curious. So how would you personally describe the? Do you know how do you fit an album around such a topic like that? What process do you go through to start that process?
Yeah, so what I did is in my mind, I did an outline of from his birth, from the middle period where he met Jesus, and then when he was in prison. So I went through all those periods, and also, when I started off the album, I had an instrumental. I have an instrumental, and that was kind of like the instrumental that brought everything in. And there's an instrumental about him being in the wilderness where I tried to capture, the calm parts of being there, and then the chaotic parts of it. So I kind of structured it in that way.
Yeah.
Uh, and I kind of let it go really as creative as I wanted to.
No, I just find it absolutely fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah, yeah.
So writing an album is no mean feat. Did you get people in to help you, or did you do all the instruments yourself? Talk us through.
So I wrote all the parts, and I play guitar, I sing, and but I went to Texas with Marty. We used musicians there to play the bass, drums, the violin, the cello, the keyboards, and they were first class musicians from Dallas, Texas. And I also know how to write music, so I wrote all the parts out for them, except for the drums. I don't write drum music. But I wrote all the parts out for them, so they had the parts, but they also added their own individuality too. Because some of the parts are, some of the music is complex. It goes into different time signatures and stuff like that. But that's how I did it. It did take about 2 months to record because it is a little complicated, the music. But again, I didn't write it on purpose to be complicated. I just let it come out the way that I wanted it to come out.
And are you happy with the recording now it's finished? Because
Oh,
uh,
I
I,
think
I do a lot of interviews. I just love that question because a lot of people to finish an album is you have to make a certain decision, don't you? Look, this album's finished. I'll just carry on tinkering with it forever.
right.
How would you make the final decision that it's done now? It's recorded.
So I think the album came out great. Of
Yeah.
course, there's always like little things that I might hear, like, oh, I could have done this a little bit better. But I think the production is really top notch. I
Yeah.
think they did a great job producing it. I honestly wouldn't change a thing, and I'm glad that it's out because yeah, I could have spent years and years, fixing little things in that. But I think you have to stop and say, well, this is what it is, and this is the best that it can be. So I have no regrets. Again, of course, there's little things that I hear because it's me, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't have changed anything about it. And it's getting really positive feedback. So I don't think
Yeah.
there's really anything I would change.
No, I do like that. And, as an artist, what is your ambition within the music industry then? Is it just to do your own thing? Is there more, are you looking to go back into it more professionally again? Have you got, and
I
where's your mind with it?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to go back into it more professionally.
Yeah.
Like I said, it seems to be doing really well on Spotify. I mean, I have people ordering the CD. There's going to be a vinyl. Um,
Oh,
so
nice.
I'd like to grow it to where, I could do some shows and grow it as big as can be. Again, it's been out maybe it'll be 2 weeks. So you know, as it grows, I'm going to grow with it, and I'd love to just do that, but we'll see how it goes. I already have a second album, and
Oh,
it's already mixed. Well, it's not mixed. We're in the process of getting it mixed, but it's about John the Apostle, and it's kind of the same sort of thing.
okay.
And it's got his story in there too, which is a really
What was John the Apostle's story? What did he do?
John the Apostle was actually a person that killed Christians, believe it or not, and
Oh,
he was hated in his own reason, in his own way, but he was going on his way to a place called Damascus, and that's when he met Jesus and he fell over, and then he got blind, and it's a whole story, and then he became a follower. Um, and then he was really hated for that. And again, his story ended in the same kind of fashion of
was anybody like back in those days?
well, yeah, I mean, he got beheaded too, and
Oh,
again,
okay, fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah, and he was kind of like John the Baptist too. He was,
Yeah.
a
Tough
rebel, and
crowd.
yeah, I mean, he got in prison, and
Yeah.
he was kind of that same thing, that kind of rock and roll kind of, just kind of doing, his thing, and he was, like I said, he was beheaded too. So that's the next album. That'll probably coming out at the end of this year.
Yeah, no. So you mentioned you got a vinyl coming out over in England. There's a bit of a struggle at the minute, just with the amount of vinyl prints, and just a lot of artists are struggling because a lot of people want vinyl these days. They want the old tangible thing in the hands to look and enjoy when it comes to music. Has that picked up in America as well? Because over here it's really difficult an artist's got to plan a year ahead just to get the time to get the vinyls printed and that kind of stuff these days. There's long backlogs and trouble with it. How is it over there?
Yeah, I mean the demand for vinyl is really big here also.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there's a place, I'm really lucky, but there's a place that's maybe 20, 25 minutes from me that does vinyl printing, and it's about 6 to 8 weeks, so it's not a year. There's more
Yeah.
plants here, there's more production in here, so it's a little bit quicker. So, but people really do love vinyl, and
I
that'll
love
be
it. I got right back into it again. I bought myself a nice record player.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, vinyl's great.
everything, yeah, everything that comes out, I just think it's pricey though, isn't it? I went into HMV the other day, and everything you can't get anything less than 40 quid these days. It's
Right, right. And
but
the album is a double album, and it's
yeah,
it's gonna be over 40 something just to make it. So,
yeah, yeah. Wow,
because and that's for me picking it up and not paying the shipping. And
yeah.
so it's expensive, but yeah, I mean vinyl is incredible. And it sounds incredible. And there's nothing like having that in your hand, holding it, looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
Just having
just
your own vinyl, because I were in bands for years, and we had CDs out and that kind of stuff, and tapes and all that kind of stuff. But they can't be anything better than just holding your own vinyl, thinking, "Oh, I made this. This is amazing."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I agree with you 100%. So I can't wait for that to come out. So that should we're working on that now. I did speak with the manufacturer, so I would assume in a couple weeks that we'll have that done, and then it'll probably be like a month or two before it comes out. But I'm looking forward to vinyl just to hold it myself.
Yeah, well, you sound prolific. You've already got another album out there, and you're still promoting your existing album as well.
Right. Right, right. Yeah, yeah. It's
Perfectly.
it's all great. Yeah.
So what else is coming up? And what else is going on in Valley of Salt world and away from this recent album and planning ahead for the next one?
Yeah, well, I already got the third album that I'm doing, and it's based
Okay,
yeah.
right.
So the third album, I'm on the eighth. I'm on the. I think I wrote
Yeah,
the seventh song for that, but it's based on Proverbs, and
yeah.
Proverbs are just sayings or stories that come from the Bible. Really, really cool stories. Stories that could apply to anybody and anything. Um, you know, so they're based on that, and that's coming really well. And I'm hoping to record that this year. Um, and then that'll be out the following year after the second album.
So I know you collaborate a lot. Is collaboration's a big thing for you as well? How do you find how do you find that? Over in the UK here, I see loads of bands that are collaborating together and working together. Just so, because just to get anywhere these days, you've got to try new things, and collaboration feels like a big thing to help both camps progress. Really, it just seems a really nice thing to do, to collaborate with somebody to create something completely different where you might not go. How do you feel about collaboration and working with other people and maybe getting opinions from other people that are completely different to yours?
Oh, I'm totally open to it. And like
Yeah,
I said, for Marty, I mean, Marty is totally different from me in a lot of
yeah,
ways. In a lot of ways, he's totally the same as me. But his opinions really shape, the album, and even the musicians in Dallas, their input on it really helped shape it too. So I'm always open to all sorts of opinions and collaborating. So, we'll see where that goes, because I'd like to use as many different musicians because every musician plays differently. Even if you write it out, they're going to play it differently than
yeah.
someone else.
So is every album going to be based on a character from the Bible? Then do you think?
It could be, it could not be.
Yeah,
But it depends where it goes, Right now it is, because there's a wealth of
yeah.
information there that has not yet been tapped that could, that's really incredible, So will it all be on the Bible? I don't know. It depends, It depends what inspiration gets to me. I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, but right now it is the Bible. But
Yeah.
it could be something different. But
What
that's
what kind of reaction have you had from the Christian community then about it?
I've posted on different groups, and a lot of people just can't really believe it, because Christian music, it can be kind of boring in a sense.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with God. It's just some of it's boring. A lot of pop music is boring. It's kind of
Yeah,
based on pop music.
yeah,
So people are excited about it because it hasn't really been done
yeah.
in that way, with guitars and stuff like that. And no one's really told the story of no, I don't think anyone's ever told the story of John the Baptist. Even though he's probably one of the top five characters in the Bible, no one's told the story because they haven't. So the response has been really good, and people like that it's different. Um, and
Yeah,
they can really relate to the story. And again, not just Christians, but I've had people
yeah,
who listen to progressive rock, and they're just like, wow, this is really amazing, and that's great,
yeah,
because the story, like I said, can apply to anybody,
yeah.
when you listen to it.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, so other than the albums, what exciting things is going on in yours and the Valley of Salts life at the minute?
Yeah, so just continue promoting the album,
Yeah.
recording the third album, and hoping to have, more experiences to try to, a big goal would to have it to go out and be done as a play, as an
Oh,
actual opera.
yeah,
But again, it's only been out for 2 weeks, so as we
yeah,
grow, and hopefully, people will hear it, and hopefully I'll make some contacts to make that kind of happen, because I think it would be really incredible to be some sort of like a Jesus Christ Superstar sort of thing, like where it comes
yeah.
out like it's like an opera, which could be really exciting,
Oh,
to do. So I'd love to do that, in the future.
oh, brilliant. Well, thanks for joining us today, Brian. It's fascinating getting to know you and understand, your journey in music. Everybody's journey is different, and everybody's got a story to tell, and that's what this podcast's all about. So, really, really appreciate you joining us today and getting to know you. Is there anything you'd like to share with the Valley Assault fans out there that might be watching this right now?
Yeah, so if you get a chance, you can go on all the streaming platforms,
Yes.
just Valley of Salt.
Yeah.
You can go on my website, valleyofsaltband.com. And if you get a chance to listen to the album, just do me a favor and listen to the album from the beginning to the end,
Yeah.
because that's where it's really, you can get really a good taste of what it sounds like when you listen to the whole thing.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Brian, thanks for joining us and wish you all the best for the next album and all the projects that are ahead of you. And yeah, thanks for joining us, mate. Nice one. Have a nice rest of your day. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Have a great one.